There was another shooting in Washington today, which has already been regarded as a new assassination attempt on Donald Trump. But this time, such shocking details have emerged that it leads one to think there is a certain conspiracy within the White House team against the American president. Well, at least that's what conspiracy theorists are thinking right now, paying attention to how the president was evacuated and how the evacuation of high-ranking White House officials took place. And why was it even allowed for the shooter to approach the ballroom where the event was taking place so calmly? The fact is that after the shooting at the Washington Hilton Hotel, where an event with US President Donald Trump was taking place, Secret Service agents immediately began escorting the country's top officials to a safe location. But what's interesting is that the Secret Service rushed to save, first and foremost, to be continued. Some saw a certain symbolism and even conspiracy. At the same time, more and more, to be continued. It turned out that it was easy to get into the hotel where the meeting was held, but metal detectors were only installed at the entrance to the main hall. And conspiracy theorists are already seeing symbolism in this assassination attempt because 45 years ago at this very place, the 40th President of the United States, Ronald Reagan, was shot. But today, Trump himself recalled Abraham Lincoln, and that wasn't for nothing either. So let's try to figure out this situation now because there are definitely some questions. My name is Alexei Pechi. Let's discuss this topic together, but before we start, I ask you to subscribe to this channel, like this episode, and leave any comment you like. Also, subscribe to my Telegram channel, Peachy News. The link is in the description of this video. There we post breaking news as it comes in.
But during today's event, I ask that all Americans recommit with their to be continued.
Итак, сразу скажу, что все подробности о том, что именно и как именно происходило. To be continued. Donald Trump with members of the media in Washington. I'll tell you more in the next episode. Well, in case you missed the news, because for some reason I'm sure that on Telegram you could already gotten a general idea of what happened. In this episode, we will discuss some of the controversial issues of this incident. In short, the President of the United States of America, Donald Trump, was urgently evacuated from a dinner with media representatives after shots were fired. To be continued. The incident occurred on Saturday evening during a formal event with journalists, which traditionally takes place as a black tie event at a hotel in Washington. Several gunshots were heard near the hall where this dinner was taking place. It turned out that the shots were fired by a man who, armed with a shotgun, a pistol, and knives, tried to break through security into the ballroom, где и сидели Дональд Трамп, вся верхушка американская и, конечно же, гости. Как раз на входе к залу и были слышны эти выстрелы, после чего Трампа и всех высокопоставленных чиновников эвакуировали. Подозреваемый в стрельбе находится сейчас под... And so, after the shooting at the Washington Hilton Hotel, where an event with US President Donald Trump was taking place, to be continued. They began evacuating the top government officials to a safe location. But interestingly, the Secret Service did not rush to save President Donald Trump first, even though it would seem he was at the top of their priority list. The first person evacuated from the hall was US Vice President J.D. Vance. President Donald Trump had to wait his turn to be rescued. To be continued, and in this video you can see that the first person being rescued is not the president but the vice president. If you watch the video, you'll see that the security agents first started evacuating the top government officials. Well, as strange as it may sound, nobody cared about the journalists. The first person the agents led off the podium, where the table for Donald Trump and his administration officials was located, was J.D. Vance. Trump himself remained at the table until armed commandos ran out and stood in front of him, shielding the head of state with their bodies. Only after that did they begin to lead Trump off the podium and backstage. By that time, J.D. Vance was already in a safe place. On the way out, the President of the United States also stumbled and fell. Well, at least that's how it looked from the outside.
There's the president being escorted out one side, the vice president being escorted.
And of course, now people online are suspicious about the fact that the vice president was evacuated before the president. Well, there could be a simple explanation for the Secret Service's behavior without any conspiracy theories at all. The thing is, in the United States, the president and vice president are separated for security reasons to prevent the entire top leadership from being vulnerable at the same time. That's the protocol. They must be taken in different directions. And according to this very protocol, the one who can be evacuated faster and more safely right now is taken out first in order to reduce the overall risk. That is, either the president or the vice president is evacuated first. One of them must be taken out as quickly as possible. And so J.D. Vance apparently was simply closer to the exit. That's why he was taken out first. And then they rushed to Donald Trump. On the other hand, it's known that other officials and ministers were evacuated rather slowly. For example, it's known that the U.S. Secretary of the Treasury, Scott Bessent, was actually one of the last to be evacuated. And before that, he was just sitting on the floor and waiting. In addition, the attempted assassination of U.S. President Donald Trump during the White House Correspondents Association dinner once again raised questions about the American leader's security. The question is how exactly an armed man with a shotgun, a pistol, and knives managed to get into the building at all and open fire. And one Secret Service agent was even wounded, but his bulletproof vest saved him. But the fact remains, how did a man with so many weapons get into this hotel? Later, Donald Trump stated that the building is not particularly secure, emphasizing the vulnerability of this location. According to him, the suspect was not far from the ballroom itself, but the very fact that an armed man was able to enter the hotel raised serious questions about the security arrangements. Particular attention was drawn to the fact that guests only needed to show a ticket to enter the hotel. Whereas metal detectors were only installed at the entrance to the main hall, so in principle it was possible to enter the hotel itself with a weapon and move around inside. This allowed the suspect to get much closer to the dinner venue than expected. But now Trump, against the backdrop of legal proceedings regarding the legality of the construction, бального зала в Белом доме, has received a new argument in favor of the construction, and he stated that the ballroom is exactly what is needed for such events, because it will be safer that way. But it turned out that Donald Trump wasn't really interested in the ballroom, and he didn't demolish an entire wing of the White House for the ballroom. No, the point is that under the ballroom a bunker is being built for the president and everyone else, and some are already suggesting that this is the real purpose of the White House reconstruction. They say the ballroom is just a cover, and in fact it's the bunker that's really being built. And by the way, don't think this is a conspiracy theory, this is open information. It's no secret there will be a new bunker under the ballroom. I'll note that during the height of the White House Correspondents' Dinner at the Washington Hilton Hotel, there was a shooting. Let me briefly break down what happened. Guests in the back of the ballroom, where the event was taking place, said they heard at least 10 shots before Secret Service agents appeared. The shooter was detained and turned out to be a 31-year-old schoolteacher, Cole Thomas Allen. I'll tell you more about him in the next episode. And here's where another interesting point begins. Donald Trump, commenting on the incident, stated that it was an attempt on his life. Although the shooter himself didn't mention the US president at all, he said he was targeting members of his administration. And here's the most interesting part. Donald Trump went ahead and compared himself to Abraham Lincoln. Next, I'll share an interesting quote from him. You know, I've studied assassinations. They always target the most influential people, people like Abraham Lincoln. They don't bother those who don't do anything special. Of course, I don't really want to say this, but I've done a lot. We've done a lot. And this comparison also raises certain questions. Now, conspiracy theorists are looking for something suspicious here too. Like, was this staged or something like that? To raise the status of the American president. But besides Trump's statements themselves, there's an interesting detail here. It's symbolism. The thing is, 45 years ago, at this very place, they shot at the 40th President of the United States, Ronald Reagan. Let me remind you that in 1981, 25-year-old John Hinckley Jr. fired 6 times. One of the bullets ricocheted off the presidential limousine, hit Reagan under his left arm and pierced his lung. At that time, the American president was hospitalized. He underwent surgery and was discharged after 12 days. And now Trump claims that he is just as great a president, constantly being targeted for assassination. Friends, be sure to subscribe to the channel, because in the next episode, if you missed the main news, we will definitely go over them, what happened and why it happened. Also click the bell and don't forget to leave a like. If you want to support the work of this YouTube channel, you can do so with any donation using the links and details in the description of this video or via the QR code on your screens. That's all. Take care of yourselves. Goodbye, everyone.